Hello and welcome to an all-new episode of Anime Brain Freeze. We are your crafty Renaissance hosts.
I am John.
And I'm CC, and when there's just too much cool anime to watch, we've got you covered. Only 3 episodes in, and we have already reached the season finale, folks. We warned you there would be slim pickings this time, due to that little global pandemic making the rounds, but be that as it may, we are not quite done yet. So today we will take a look at a little show called Arte and the struggles of its main character with taking up the profession of a painter in 16th century Italy. And even though we have a very limited number of shows to pick from this time, we will of course choose our personal best of the season candidates regardless after our final review. But first things first, let's take a quick look at the shows that couldn't hold our interest this season in the Chop and Drop. Yeah, I said before that COVID was to blame for the slim review season, and that is mostly true. After all, a bunch of interesting shows got postponed or delayed until the beginning of or middle of summer season to start airing again. But John and I both also dropped a bunch of maybes due to lack of interest and time. So let's quickly talk about those, shall we? John, what was your first drop this time around?
The first was Tamayomi, the baseball girls.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed alright, but, you know, sports anime, I guess. It takes a lot for me to really get interested and invested, but, you know, and I guess I'm not so much into baseball so much as I am blaseball. Look it up. You'll have a good time.
I've heard about it.
But yeah, at least a few seasons ago, I started watching a little bit of Cinderella 9, and I also dropped that. But at least Tamayomi had a little more production value behind it. It was pretty clear with Cinderella 9 that TMS was busy working on a better show, aka Fruits Basket. So the effort was definitely shunted off in a different direction. Tamayomi seems fine. It at least doesn't seem like... Again, Cinderella 9 was also definitely a cash grab because it tied in with a mobile game. But hey, you know, what are you going to do? It is what it is.
What anime doesn't these days? Some are entirely based on it. Look at one of our reviews this season to have that confirmed. Yeah, okay, I can see what... I mean, I got still some sports anime in the pipeline. I don't even remember when Haikyuu will be picking up again, because they aired the first part of the 4th season for that, and then they stopped, and I thought they would continue in summer, but apparently they didn't. We'll see. The first show I dropped was Sakura was the animation. As I mentioned in the sneak peek for that particular season, I thought this was a remake and not a sequel. None of the characters were really introduced to me, which I hoped for, and I thought we would start from the beginning with this, but apparently not. Also, it was maybe tied into the game some way, and you should maybe better play that. Also, it was full CG and not made by Orange, so pass. Yeah, all of that were reasons enough to not keep on watching this show. So, yeah, pretty much that. John, what's your next drop?
Sing Yesterday for me. It seemed like a neat sort of slice of life story, and I didn't dislike it, but I just sort of ended up being like, this seems fine, but I think I'm good with sort of seeing it through to the end. I don't know, I sort of like that it was, they definitely made it evident that it was, you know, a piece that was set in like, I don't know, late 80s, early 90s, because I know I said this during a sneak preview, there's something like any like modern tech like smartphones or computers around. It's just, you know, like a very sort of its time piece. And I appreciate that, you know, not taking your story and modernizing it in weird ways, like banging on the same old drum forever. But Banana Fish did that, and I thought it was kind of worse for it because it made some of the story elements
not work.
Yes, that's a diplomatic way of saying it. But yeah, I thought it was a neat, at least, you know, it had decent production value behind it. So, if you're looking for some more slowed down or slice of life sort of thing, I guess that's it. I just was like, I think I was ready to tap out.
Yeah, I was ready to tap out of Wave Listen to Me after its second episode.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
I think that was already one of your nopes when we talked about it. For me, it was still a maybe, but...
Yeah.
I mean, the setup was interesting enough because radio is not really something that is tackled in anime that much, and I like radio as a thing, as an idea, as a theme for a show, something that isn't explored that much and everything. And we're doing a fucking podcast, so of course I'm at least remotely interested in radio stuff. That's where that originated from. But this just didn't do it for me. I don't know. Its main character, I liked that she was, headstrong and had very vocal opinions, but the way she verbalized that was just incredibly taxing, exhausting to listen to. And, talking a fucking 100,000 miles per hour all the time and fucking rattling off a bunch of jokes and, opinions. And I mean, that's fine. That's what we do as well. But we also slowed down sometimes. And she just, it was too much, and it was not super funny except for maybe that made up bit with the bear, but also that went too long, way too long.
Yeah.
Like you said. And and it didn't get better in the second episode, so I was like, no, it's not for me. Some of the characters are interesting, but I'm just too, I don't know, put off by what I'm listening to, so I won't listen to this wave, whatever.
Hey, you got him.
Yep. Anyway, John, what's your next drop?
My next drop was Listeners.
Yeah, same for me.
I don't know. I got 2 episodes in, and it was getting a little off the rails from that point because, like I said, the same thing sort of happened with another show that the same writer worked on, Mikaku City Actors, I think it was. I got all the way through that one, and it didn't get weird until like halfway through. I'd say probably the second act, and then it had some really weird CG fuckery partway through. That was. But I sort of started to see the signs early on in this show, and I was like, nah, I don't think so, man. Yeah.
I don't know, probably wise choice. I mean, I don't hate weird, so
I don't either. It's just sometimes I have a tolerance.
Yes, exactly. I mean, the things you said about Mikaku City Actors or whatever the other show was in the sneak peek weren't super encouraging, and the production values on that show weren't great. I mean, I like the soundtrack of Listeners. I think it was pretty banging. I like the main characters; they were pretty fun. But for some, after, I don't know how many episodes I watched, second or third, I was like, this isn't really going anywhere that I'm super interested in. And like I said, the production values should be higher than this. The monsters look like fucking crap. And I don't know. The theme itself, or the style itself was interesting to me. I liked it. But I also I don't have that much time this season, so I have room for one more show, and I decided that to be Princess Connect Redive, so we had something to talk about in the season premiere, so something both of us reviewed, and I knew you would probably drop Listeners, so I was like, okay, sorry, gonna cut you off here, Listeners. Yeah, I think that was a wise choice, because I really enjoyed Princess Connect for what it was, so I might not have felt the same for Listeners.
And it's coming back for a second season, so yay.
Is it? Oh, Prince Connect, you mean?
Yeah. Well, Listeners, Princess Connect, yeah.
Yeah, that's great to hear. I hope they do something with the story this time around. I mean, something more than one character.
Yeah.
Which was good, don't get me wrong, but, there is more to do with the other ones. So I hope they put a bit more time into that. We are now introduced to every fucking character in this show, so can we please now move on to actually tell a story with that? That would be nice. That would be great.
Look, there's a reason why the opening theme is Lost Princess, wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah, sure. Okay. I get it. Yeah, we'll see. I'm looking forward to it for the production values alone and returning to that universe or some of the fun characters in there.
So what else you got?
Yeah, my next drop is Gleipnir, which was this new battle royale game after Darwin's game came out the season before that, which was
I forgot that was the thing too.
Yeah, both pretty kind of similar. There's this weird death gamers thing that you are recruited into, and then you have collect coins or whatever, or survive attacks from other characters who actually kill you or whatever. And this looked, at least on production side of things, looked a bit better, and characters also look more interesting, but the main character turning into this weird fucking Five Nights at Freddy monster Teddy that, I don't know, which was supposed to be a dog or I don't know, stuffed animal, looked dumb to me. I didn't like it. It wasn't scary or anything. It was just off-putting and weird and yeah, kind of silly. I mean, anime tends to be silly very often, but it was just too silly for me, and I don't know. I didn't feel it.
Yeah, I remember seeing that in the first trailer, and I was like, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Like I said, I don't mind weird, but just that kind, I don't know. The whole style of the show was a bit too, okay, I guess I know what you're doing, but I don't think I like it. So,
again, tolerance.
Yes, exactly. Also time, but yeah, there are better anime of that kind of that ilk, I think, and I didn't feel like it. So, yeah, also dropped. John, what's your next one?
Tower of God.
Same for me, also my last one.
Yeah, it's one of those, I feel like I'd seen this story before, and granted there's another show that is currently airing that I'm sure we are both going to talk about that's kind of like that. But the latter of the two is a lot more fun. This is just like, all right, I guess the kid's name is Bang. Why is it Bang? You're chasing after this girl because...
I mean, it had some things going for it. The art style was kind of unique, even though I was not super fond of it, because it looked a bit too rough for my taste.
Yeah, I did like the style, and I thought the way they handled the animation kind of served the style pretty well.
Although I heard it kind of falls apart in later episodes, especially animation-wise. So... yeah, I was not enticed to check this out, even though Kevin Penkin was doing the soundtrack and I like his stuff. It's probably the only reason to watch fucking Shield Hero, but
hey, you got 2 more seasons of that coming.
Oh no! Thank you. Skipping out on that one too. Anyway, yeah,
Aww. No,
you live.
You don't understand. You have to choose a shitty show to hitch your wagon to, and then you are fucking Stockholm Syndromes to it the way I am to Sword Art Online.
Listen, I am watching Sword Art Online with you, so I have fulfilled my quota. I do not need another one, and yeah, both of those shows have their righteous amount of creepy and problematic stuff. So whatever. I don't need another one. Anyway, yeah, that Tower of God was just like, oh yeah, this could be interesting, but also I don't think I want.
Yeah.
There was a lot of that going around this season. I don't know. I mean, it's not like we had so much to pick from, because, like I said, a bunch of shows were postponed, and some of those we will talk about after this season has wrapped up, or after the next season has wrapped up, depending on how many episodes they get. But you know, even those that stuck around, some of them were just like, yeah, okay, if I had more time on my hand, or if I was, like, not depressed from all this shit happening in the real world.
Fucking right.
I would make time and you know, watch those shows that I'm not super interested in. But, yeah, no. There were other more interesting things to do.
It's like, I should mention... Gundam Build Divers Re-Rise came back, and the second season ran through, and I watched all of it, and you're not going to hear me review it because it was not horribly interesting.
Not much to say about it.
Not really. I mean, like I think I mentioned a few episodes ago that they sort of talked about how, oh, hey, Hirota was actually a background character in Gundam Build Divers all along, and now this is his story. Also, we had to bring back the old cast to make sure you were still interested, and it was like, all right, okay.
Beatty!
I got to the end of it, and I was like, I guess that was a thing. It wasn't terribly produced. It wasn't, like, awfully written. It was just there.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, it's a show for kids, this specifically, and that's fine. It was like, I guess another drop. Well, I mentioned it at the start of the season, Yu-Gi-Oh! 7s. They went in hard on the kid market with that show. And granted, Yu-Gi-Oh! Was always skewed young, but not quite as young as it did with Sevens and Zexel. So,
yeah.
There you go.
That's fine. I think our listeners will survive not having a review of those if you're not that super motivated and interested in that in the first place. So.
I mean, Core Gundam was cool. It has interchangeable parts and different pieces of armor it puts on, like the Liger Zero and Zoids.
I think we can't bring that across properly in podcast form. So,
yeah. I know. There you go. That's my piece.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thanks for your 2 cents on that. Okay, so those are the shows we didn't want to review for one reason or another, but we have one more we actually wanted to review. So we're gonna get to that and talk about it right now. In early 16th century Florence, Arte is the only daughter of a noble but not particularly wealthy household. Since her childhood, Arte has proved blessed with an unusual talent for painting, further nurtured by her father. But when he dies, her mother tries to force her to abandon her love for art and find a noble young man to marry as soon as possible in order to save the family from ruin. Arte, however, refuses to give up her dreams, and, going against the beliefs of her time, she starts searching for a master painter to work for, hoping to one day become an accomplished master herself. Her strong determination ultimately catches the attention of the young but well-known painter Leo, who finally accepts her as his apprentice. From here on out, Arte has to learn the ins and outs of her craft and how to overcome the roadblocks of prejudice and her own preconceived notions on the long way to turn her passion into her profession. So yeah, Arte is based on a manga, which started in 2013, and by now counts 13 volumes, and it's still running. The manga was written by Kei Okubo, and as far as I know or could see, this is the only thing he or she wrote so far. The anime is 12 episodes long and was produced by 7 Arcs, which you probably have mentioned before, John, when talking about Lyrical Girl Nanoha, at least in passing, because they were responsible for a bunch of that.
Yeah, I mean, they've done a whole bunch of stuff. Some of my personal favorites are Dog Days, Lyrical Nanoha. They worked on the adaptation of a visual novel called White Album, the Majestic Prince movie, Trinity 7, which, oh man, I love and I hate that show. Because it is just wish fulfillment harem nonsense, but it's got a lot of great action, so it's fun. Mushi Bugyo, which was definitely a fun action show about, hey, there's giant bugs trying to take over the world in like feudal era Japan. But yeah, the 7 Arcs has been around. They were acquired at one point by the Tokyo Broadcast System, and then they sort of like sharded off between like 7 Arcs Pictures, which I think they do the production side now, and 7 Arcs, which does like the distribution side. It's weird because you look them up on like Anime News Network, and there is a clear division in their works between Seven Arcs and Seven Arcs Pictures, and but there's commonality between both sides with people that have worked on certain things. So
yeah, I would expect them to switch them around.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Speaking of people working on things, the director is Takayuki Hamada, who also directed Prince of Tennis, which is a very well-known show. 2 of the Nanoha movies, or maybe there are only 2 Nanoha movies, I'm not sure.
There are 4 Nanoha movies. The first 2 are recaps of the first 2 series, and Detonation and Reflection are like new stories after that.
Oh, okay. So the more interesting ones, I guess.
Well, I mean,
here we go.
You say that, but I'll keep it quick.
Yes, please.
The movie adaptations of the first 2 series are definitely. I feel like they're the versions to watch because they condense it down to everything that you need to know, and the movie budget on them is fucking nuts.
So I probably should check them out. Is what you're saying.
If you're going to watch Nanoha and Nanoha A's, watch the movies.
Okay, good to know. I mean, that's also a thing that you could say for at least Macross Frontier, I think, maybe. Because the movies seem to be a bit more interesting than, or at least the second one and how it wraps up seems to be a bit more interesting than what the series does. But then again, I haven't finished Frontier and not the movies either, so I won't know, but that's what I heard anyway.
Yeah, a friend of ours has been kind of watching a whole bunch of Macross, and he was watching the movies too. I have not watched any of the movies, but I would like to eventually.
Yeah. I would be interested to see what changes they made. Although he told us about the changes they made for Delta, and that didn't sound great. So
it's weird.
Yeah, it sounded like weird choices there. Okay, and Hamada also was director on Appleseed 13 and Mushibuyo, which you mentioned before, I think.
Mm-hmm. And the Orphan reboot, which we talked about recently.
Oh, right. Was that wasn't done by Seven Arcs, right?
No, that was our friends at Studio Dean.
Oh, right. I mean, you said for a Studio Dean production that was passable.
I mean, a lot of Dean stuff is held together by duct tape and prayers to whatever god you worship. But I feel like the Orphan reboot at least held together. It looked consistently better than the original Orphan.
Uh-huh. Well, they worship the wrong gods for 7 Deadly Sins Season 3, but whatever. Back to a good-looking show, which Arte, in my opinion, definitely is. I mean, there's not much going on in the animation department, really. This is neither an action show like, My Hero Academia, nor a ridiculously pretty, sparkly fever dream flex like Violet Evergarden. So it doesn't, have to throw Sakuga in your face. This is a small story about important but small things. But yeah, it's solidly animated, the character models are sharp, the faces are expressive, which is probably the most relevant and important thing when it comes to a show that relies heavily on dialogue and character interactions to tell its story. The series boasts a rich color palette, which, you would
hope so.
Yeah, in concurrence with the theme being about painting and art and everything, that should be given. Yeah, but also the scenery is pretty and feels real. I mean, I haven't been to 16th century Florence or Venice myself. Sorry, the DeLorean is being fixed up in the shop. And I have only once been to 20th century Florence as a young child, so I don't really remember what it looks like. Maybe just fucking pull out those old slides that my dad took on the way there.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah, it might be nice to revisit that. Anyway, but I believe that it could have really looked like what the show made it look like. Also, the clothes of the people looked like something that maybe was worn in that time period, although Leo's clothes looked a bit too modern to me for some reason. I don't know, the way they were cut.
I don't know.
Are you wearing leather pants? And I don't know, this looks Game of Thronesy, and some of the outfits in that were like, no, that is not something I believe people in a medieval setting or something would have worn. Weird. Anyway,
the man has fucking thigh boots on. So
yeah. Anyway, I mean, he looks good in it. Whatever. It was just something that stuck out to me.
Got some fucking dad energy going on.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. I also like how much detail they put in the different stages of certain paintings, and they even took into account Arte's hair growing long again towards the end of the series, after she cuts it off in the very beginning. So, yeah, it's not mind-blowing or anything in terms of animation quality, but it definitely doesn't feel half-assed. Or did you notice anything where you said, like, yeah, I'm seeing the seams here?
Nothing really jumps out in my head. It seemed, again, not really the toppest shelf animation because, it doesn't need to be.
Yeah.
But it was serviceable. It looked fine all the way through, as far as I could tell.
Yeah. No big, I don't know, off-model accidents or anything. Or, I don't know, fucking berserk atrocity or what have you.
No.
Anyway, the soundtrack by Goro Ito is also very nice, which I don't know what he has done before, because I didn't find anything except for the show. Yeah, it's this whimsical orchestral soundtrack, sometimes more heavy on the piano, sometimes more heavy on the strings, but always really, it's got a bit of a fairy tale vibe to it. And, yeah, I liked it.
It's got your Renaissance vibe.
Yeah, a bit. But it's also sometimes very playful and, which really matches Arte's character and everything. So, yeah.
But yeah, about as far as I could find with Goro Ito is that he had done some work on Natsume's Book of Friends.
That
a little bit of it.
Yeah, that works. And if I remember that in the soundtrack of that show correctly, which I haven't checked out much of, I just randomly checked out the 5th season, like 1 or 2 episodes of it, then realized that it was the 5th season and noped out because I'm not gonna watch the first 4 seasons of this. I mean, I like it. That's too much time investment right now. But yeah, that also had this kind of style soundtrack, I think. So yeah, works. Anyway, it's nice. So yeah, as I brought up in the summary, this is a show about a young woman trying to make her living as an artist, despite her mother wanting to marry her off, and the rest of the world at least scoffing, if not laughing, at the idea of a woman being a painter, which is apparently not completely unheard of, as we later learn, but super rare. So you would probably expect this show being about Arte wooing everyone with her creative, expressive sensibilities. And I mean, there's a bit of that in there because she has kind of like this delicate touch and an eye for certain things that men don't have. But art and painting in this show is more treated as a craft and a job than an expression of your inner self or your creativity, which makes sense because painters earned their living by making contracts with nobles or other rich people to paint portraits or the walls of roof of churches or something like that in that time period. So, yeah, you learn a lot about artisans, craftsmen, and artists in this show. What you need to do your job, what materials you need, what skills you need, all the knowledge about tactical negotiation strategies, like those are relevant too with customers and patrons. And we learn all of that through the eyes of our main character, Arte, who is great. John, what did you think about her?
I liked her a lot because she had that can-do attitude. She was ready and raring to go, and then you get Schmeckledorfed by the world as soon as she set foot outside the house. Don't worry. You can. I've
never heard that expression before.
That word was put in my head recently thanks to social media.
Oh, God damn you, social media!
But yeah, I like that, she was very enthusiastic and ready to go in spite of a world that was definitely not ready for her, I guess is the best way to say. They sort of beat it into your head, though, for like 2 or 3 episodes that, this is a man's world and line of work. And it's like, we get it, but I don't think you need to take that long to make sure we get it.
Yeah, they're hammering that home. And I mean, they're bringing it up again and again, but also not only, you know, related to her being a woman, but also to her being a noble and everything. And, you know, there are different aspects of that, and her actually having a problem with that. And because, you know, she's trying to make her own way. It's like, I'm not doing this for fun. I'm trying to be my own woman, and this is hard in this time, but I want to do it because I don't want to do what the world thinks I should do with my life, which makes sense. And, you know, they're trying to show the obstacles to that, which in that time period, it makes sense that everyone would laugh at her endeavors, right? Because that's not what you do. You get married into a rich family, and yeah, and that's it. You fucking take care of the kids. And yeah, look pretty. So, and I can understand, you know, them driving that home and everything. And I don't think they go overboard with it. It's not like, especially after the third episode, it's because she befriends a lot of other characters who are initially like on a confrontational course when it comes to her. It's like, no, you can't do this and whatever. But she convinces pretty much all of them kind of easily just by, you know, being dedicated to her craft and doing hard work and everything. So, you know, all of that falls apart, and then she becomes friends and they support her and everything, which is nice. So it becomes later more about her, I don't know, her own hold-ups and, you know, in a psychological way, and her own coming to grips with what her idea of herself is and what is important about her character and where she wants to go and where she wants to take her and what it means for her to live her life on her own and everything. So it's not only about, hey, this is a woman and the world sucks for a woman. It's just, it's a constant theme. Like, it's, you know, it's brought up again and again, but after a while it's not in your face, which, you know, I appreciate it. I appreciate that it was brought up, and I also appreciate that they didn't dwell on it too much after a while. So yeah,
I was sort of glad that, you know, they were like, hey, I think we get it enough now. Now we can show instead of tell.
Yes, exactly. And like you said, she's this feisty, headstrong, super optimistic, pulling up her sleeves and getting to work kind of gal. Yeah, even when most of the world is against her. Like, she's no Mary Sue, though. She definitely struggles a lot, both physically and mentally. And she makes a lot of mistakes. But she's always willing to go the extra mile for the purpose of moving forward and steadily closer to her chosen goal in life, which is good. And it makes her an interesting character that she's not perfect. She tries to be. She tries to do a lot. Too much, and that's also a problem. You know, she constantly overexhausts herself and everything, and whereas the people around her, and, you know, almost dies because of that. Like, at least one time when she fucking goes over the side of a boat. Yeah, so she definitely, you know, doesn't have it all figured out. But she tries her best, and most of the time that's all she needs to do, at least, while also taking the help of other people, which there's some. And the rest she does with her attitude and her character, and which is great. Like we said, she tries to become an apprentice pretty much immediately in the first episode, but is ignored because she's a woman. And at least to a scene where she's willing to cut off not only her hair, but also her breasts to be accepted. I don't want a woman anymore. Like, someone stop her. And thankfully she is stopped by an artisan named Leo before she can do the latter. Thank God. And yeah, he takes a look at her drawings and accepts her as an apprentice. He's not being nice, though, in the beginning, because he thinks Arte is just a ditzy girl from a noble household that just draws for fun, so he gives her an impossible task to crush her spirit. Especially since he took up art to not starve anymore, because he was a beggar boy, pretty much, but was so talented and, you know, so willing to put in the work that he quickly became a renowned artist. But yeah, of course, Arte is super dedicated and passes his test with flying colors. Again, falling asleep on the fucking floor, but still, she managed to do it. And when she then confesses that she actually wants to become an apprentice because she wants to make it on her own and doesn't want to live like a bird in the cage of marriage, and that art is the only skill she has to do that, Leo recognizes her as a kindred spirit. He literally says she has balls. So he noticed. But yeah, their dynamic is pretty great. I mean, it's kind of a mixture between, you know, him having kind of this fatherly protective attitude towards her pretty quickly. But there's also this hinted at romantic side of things, which they don't really go as much into as I expected, really.
I was glad for that.
Yeah, kind of, I guess.
Because they started to go down that path, and that was when I was like, oh, am I going to end up dropping this show?
No, really, it's funny, because you would expect they go more into that, because it's really teased really heavily at a certain time. It's like, okay, this is where the show is going. And they kind of drop it completely after that, pretty much. And then at the end of the show, you think they maybe bring it up again, but the reasons for her returning to Leo or rejoining him in again and whatever are kind of different. Like, she has found a different reason for that. They really don't bring up the thing again, which was kind of, you know, I was kind of glad about it, like you were. But also it was a bit weird. And considering the manga is still running and the show probably won't be, I wonder if they cut that for time or if there was more of that in the manga and this is where the manga leads and the anime just went a different route and decided, nah, we're just gonna do the maybe thing for the shippers and then let it rest. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I'm also glad that they kind of focus on different things. Because I don't mind a good love story, but also, you know, it would have been a bit awkward. I don't know.
I feel like it would have been a little too forced.
Yeah. It would have been, I don't know. The interesting parts of that show lie elsewhere. So making this into a straightforward romance would have been a bit lackluster and disappointing. So I'm glad they didn't do that. Like I said, the dynamic is great. Leo is the only one who doesn't treat Arte differently because she's a girl, and she appreciates that, of course, because she wants to be worthy of her apprenticeship. He often plays, especially in front of others, the strict asshole to make the others respect her, because it's like, hey, if I show them that I don't treat her differently or treat her especially hard, then they will not only respect her, but also accept her into their midst as a fellow painter, as a fellow artisan who does their job well. And it works a lot of times. I mean, you know, it's a taxing time for Arte, especially when they do that job with all the other painters, like the co-production kind of in that one church, I think. But yeah, it works. It does the trick it does, because all the other painters are like, holy shit, he's fucking driving her into the ground. I wouldn't be able to do what she does. I didn't expect that from a woman. And then, yeah, she even gets to play fucking rugby or whatever they're playing. Yeah, which is a completely different thing and maybe not as, I don't know, unproblematic as it is, you know, painting together. But whatever. It's nice. It's nice to see Leo help Arte to win the other people over who have their, you know, own preconceived notions and their own prejudices towards her. So
I also like that, you know, we see her doing a lot of hard, heavy work all throughout. So then later on, I was like, hey, do you need help lifting that? No, I'm good.
Yeah.
She's like, you see, oh shit, this chick got fucking swole.
Yeah. It's almost like a person who constantly does physical work and is constantly basically working out gets stronger.
Yeah.
Yeah. Someone should tell that all the people who complained about Abby in Last of Us 2, you fucking idiots. Anyway.
I know. I did like seeing that progression, though. I thought that was really cool. You know, it's just a small little thing, but, you know, it's like, yeah, of course, that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, the devil is in the details, and they definitely paid attention to that. Not only that, but also, like I said, the stuff with the hair and everything, you really feel like they thought about some of that stuff. And, you know, it leads to some funny things, like the scene where she fucking carries that giant ass piece of luggage up the stairs, and the male helpers are like, what the fuck? And then later lifts up Katerina just fucking from her sofa and puts her on a chair. It's like, what is happening? That woman is as strong as a fucking truck. Anyway. Yeah, it's really cool. I like that they did that in the show. So, yeah. Another thing, I mean, one part of an early scene where, you can see the beginning of that is she has to fix her living room, which is kind of this old rundown shed. And she actually manages to do it. She purchases all the wood that she needs. She fucking brings it all up to the roof, and she just does it. Yeah, she just fucking fixes that thing. Like a carpenter couldn't have done a better job. I mean, maybe she should do a dual apprenticeship or something, because
I was gonna say dual class. Come on.
Yeah. She's gonna be a carpenter as well. I mean, that's not where her passion lies, but she has a knack for it, apparently. It was really interesting. But yeah, she is great. Leo is great, and I like what they did with those two characters. Yeah, we learn about all the steps one had to go through in that time period to become a painter. Also, just a bunch of things in general about that time period, like how the sections were prohibited by the church, except during Carnival for some reason, which is a perfect opportunity to learn more about the human body and thus become a better painter. I mean, knowledge about anatomy is very important after all. Just need to know how a body looks in certain poses and everything, and if it moves a certain way. So they even address that. Again, details. And it's funny, usually people start their apprenticeship when they're 13. Arte is 15, I think, so she counts as old, I guess. Which they do bring up, and he's like, oh, well, basically you're an old lady. So it's like, what? Okay. All right. But it's funny, and her reaction to that is also kind of priceless. But yeah, like I mentioned before, painting is contract work in this time period, so Arte has to learn what is most important to the client who ordered the painting. And they kind of try to frame it a certain way, which I do not subscribe to. I do not subscribe to the idea the show tries to propagate that the customer is always right and you have to do your work properly regardless of how the customer behaves. Like the thing with the bread shop, with the guy who bakes the bread is like put down by the other guy and by one of the customers who's like, yeah, don't get off your high horse, you're just baking bread. And Arte just tries to just flips at him and everything.
All right, you do a better job. Is that your craft?
Like, if customers behave like assholes, you should be allowed to let them know and withhold your services from them or punch them in the fucking face, depending on the situation.
Too bad that's not how the world works, even now.
Well, depending on your job. I mean, if you're lucky and your boss is like, yeah, fuck them, you can do that too. I mean, I worked in a restaurant and we had a share of problematic customers, and if they didn't, treat the service staff with the respect they deserve, our boss just fucking threw them out of the restaurant. And he was like, yeah, I don't need you as customers, go fuck yourself. And
sweet.
Yeah, He was just not that kind of guy. He was like, no customer first. If the customer is an asshole, I don't want him as a customer. I don't care. I can survive otherwise. And yeah, it worked for him so far. So I'm not working there anymore, but he seems to be doing fine, even with COVID and everything. So yeah, you don't have to be a slave to the customer's every whim. I mean, this is now. And this was a different time period where you were maybe couldn't choose how to behave in front of customers or how to treat them that freely. So I can accept that in that time frame, but I don't know if that is something that should be applicable to today. You say, in a lot of jobs this is still done today, but the show tries to frame this as a positive thing, and that is the thing you do to do your job, and that is the thing that is right, even though it sucks. But I would still say, no, it's not right. And this needs to be changed. And
no, I don't disagree with you. It's just, the way the world is.
Yeah. But yeah, that should change. The show doesn't necessarily say that it should change. So whatever. And I think the baker guy says that it's fine the way it is, and he's fine with that. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And there are a bunch of other cool side characters in the show as well. There is Angelo, who is like this young apprentice who kind of starts at the same time as Arte, and he runs into her on a certain occasion, and they become kind of friends and everything. And he's super considerate towards her because he grew up in a household with 4 sisters, and his mom, who rely on him for fucking everything.
Mm-hmm.
So he initially doesn't get Arte's attitude at all, which is like, yeah, you don't need to help me. Please, I want to do it on my own. Like, why wouldn't she let me help her? She's just a girl. She must need my help because all the other girls in my life do. He's not an asshole, but the idea of her wanting to achieve things with her own strength is so alien to him. It's kind of hilarious. And yeah,
God damn.
It's all part of his upbringing, so it makes sense. He gets it by the end of the second episode, though. He also, I would like to have seen like the full reaction of his sisters and his mom to him saying, "No, why don't you just try to do that yourself once?"
Oh no.
He does that. And I'm like, okay, whoa, what's gonna happen? Are they gonna fucking flip at him? And then they cut away and I'm like, no, I want to see that.
Yeah, seriously.
It was probably hilarious. Anyway, he also immediately falls for her without noticing it, I think. At least that's what they seem to tease in like one or two scenes. And they, again, don't really do anything with that. Maybe they're supposed to be just friends and he just admires her. I don't know. It's just like one or two scenes you could read differently. Were pretty obvious in my opinion. And again, it's like the thing where Arte seems to fall for Leo without noticing because she doesn't know what love is, whatever. And another character that we're going to get to in a moment teaches her about it. Not really that well, but yeah, they also dropped that. So the show doesn't seem to be that interested in following any romantic storylines here. So whatever. I mean, that happens often enough in these kind of shows, and I definitely got a shoujo vibe from it occasionally, even though this is seinen. But I was kind of glad that they didn't try to do like a love triangle thing between her, Angelo, and Leo, and another character that gets introduced later. Every time I expect, oh, this is where the love triangle comes in. They're like, no, that's not what this character is about, apparently. And I'm like, oh, okay, sure, that's nice. Because I wasn't really interested in that. Anyway, yeah. All right, the next side character that we get introduced to that is featured more prominently is Veronica, who is this courtesan. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so a high-caliber prostitute, basically. And she lives in a very wealthy household, pretty much. She she got a lot of pretty stuff and gives Leo a lot of work, a lot of paintings, for a lot of paintings and everything. And she's an interesting character. She's very businesslike, and Arte initially admires her for how she appears and how worldly she seems to be, and intelligent and everything, and confident and all of that. But then they kind of clash because of the way Veronica approaches her job and kind of like treats the man that she engages with, which is kind of like toys a bit and playthings in a way. And I mean, the attitude the show takes towards prostitution is tricky because it has more of a negative connotation than I would like. I mean, that game is played with two people. So if you fall in love with a prostitute, that is partially your fault, which I believe is what Veronica says in the beginning, which is like, don't look at a prostitute or a courtesan with sparkling eyes. And that means like, hey, this is my profession, this is my job, I cannot fall in love with you, and I won't. I will give you the idea that I am, but that, again, is my job. That is my business. That's what I do. And if you are not aware of that, that is your problem. That is your fault. So, I don't know. It frames that as a bad thing, and I don't know if I'm fine with that, because, like I said, that game is played with two players. So if you indulge in that, that's your own choice, but don't blame the other player for that, I think. But yeah, different times. Again, I guess I'm fine with that. But if you like try to apply that to today's standards, that's kind of... I was not super fond of it, but I could accept it. And the show, again, I'm saying negative connotation, but it's not like the show is fucking ragging on her. It's like, hey, you're such a bad person. I mean, Artist says that, but she comes around in a way, and they become friends again. And they understand each other and everything. Just, Arte just sees it differently than Veronica does and gives her a piece of her mind. So I guess that's fine. I just don't subscribe to Arte's view on things here. But hey, that's okay. I don't know how you felt about the whole thing, the whole storyline with Veronica, John. Any thoughts on that?
I guess I could see both sides, but the thing is, you got to remember that Arte came from, an aristocratic family, that sort of thing is like, why would you that sort of attitude. But, hey, again, the world works in weird ways outside of your own little bubble, and not everyone's going to agree with you. But, I at least thought it was good that they came to an understanding.
Yeah. And I mean, Veronica is also to blame for giving Arte initially the wrong idea about love, because Arte has had no experience with that. And then Veronica kind of sells to her the idea that what she does as her job is also love, which it's not. So that's a problem. And why would Arte be able to make the distinction there? Because, she doesn't have any experience in that field. So yeah, I can see that, again, blame would be on both parties here.
Yeah, that's fair.
Another character that gets introduced is Ubertino, who I love. He's like this old kind of patron of Leo, who was acquainted with his master. And yeah, they have like this kind of father-son relationship going on. And it's really fun to see Leo react a bit differently than he usually does. Well, I think both of them say it's complicated.
They definitely ruffle each other's feathers.
Yeah, definitely. And it's fun to see those two together. And yeah, Ubertino has like this very sober look on accumulating paintings. For him, it's more an additional tool for gain in his own job, like to impress his customers. And he talks very openly about that he's not really that interested in art. Although... it's not the entire truth, but I think that applies to a lot of people buying expensive paintings today. They don't necessarily own them because they like them, but to sell an image as like this very art-savvy connoisseur kind of thing, and also being super rich and be able to afford this kind of shit. That kind of reflects the modern attitude of certain people, and Ubertino kind of scoffs at that. It's like, yeah, that's how the world works, but it's not. I'm not pretending to actually like this. It's just like, yeah, I need to make people paint paintings to look rich. And to gain the attention of the other people in my profession. So whatever. I kind of like this honest view on this, even though, like I said, it's not the entire truth, as we find out later. So he's a cool character. I like him. And after we get introduced to all these characters, and Arte sometimes clashes with them, but also becomes friends and everything. And then they have this big co-pro with the fresco. A new character is introduced who comes in from Venice, and that is Yuri, who is this very handsome noble who, as I'm very glad I found out, is not interested in Arte romantically. He literally says, I don't care about girls as young as you. And I'm like, whoa! Have you looked at the medium you are a character in, dude? You are a rare beast! That is very nice.
Definitely a breath of fresh air.
Definitely. I was super surprised when he said that. I was like, what? You never hear an anime character say this. Okay, that's great. That's really nice. Okay, but yeah, he kind of wants to recruit someone to paint a painting of his sister-in-law, and also educate his niece, who is kind of being apparently a bit of a problem child. And
that's putting it mildly.
Yes. And he learns about Arte and is like, hey, okay, that sounds like an interesting person. I think I want to recruit her. I think I want to get her to come with me. And he makes the proposition, and Arte is interested, but she also wants to stay with Leo and everything, so she struggles a bit, but then decides to join Yuri and go to Venice for the second half of the series. And yeah, Yuri seems to be a bit dubious in the beginning. You're like, oh, what is his actual plan and everything? And he's definitely a bit of a schemer, but he's a pretty good dude. as we later find out. Actually, I really grew fond of him. I was like, yeah, I see what he's doing, and I really like it. I mean, he's still got this kind of arrogant, aloof air about him because he's like this super noble guy, I guess, super rich dude. But you see that under all this aloof exterior and behavior, he's a good dude. He's a good guy. And I like that. I didn't expect that. I expected him. I was like, is this show getting a villain character? Is that going to be him? But no. He's a cool dude. And yeah, the second half is less about the craft, about Arte learning the craft of painting, and more about putting what she has learned about self-confidence and going her own way to good use and passing it along to Katerina, which is the niece of Yuri. And this is pretty much the rest of the show. It's Arte becoming an etiquette tutor to Katerina, who is kind of like this, comes across in the beginning as a spoiled child, very high horsey, and who doesn't really care for Arte in the beginning because she has had a bunch of tutors who try to teach her etiquette, and there's a reason why she doesn't do that, and we learned why. But I found this part of the show to be the strongest, actually. I thought the relationship between Katerina and Arte and how it develops, and the parallels they draw between Arte and Katerina in relation to their status as a noble and what they learn from each other to be able to accept who they are and what they can and can't change, was pretty damn good. I thought that was well written in terms of character development. I think that was hitting very strong points on an emotional basis. Like, the emotional payoff for that is really strong, in my opinion, and the emotional scene between Katerina and her mom made me actually tear up.
Yeah.
So did the ending of the show, for that matter. Good feelings en masse, just in general, in this show. Like, this is a really good feels comfort food show when it comes down to it. Very kind of slice of lifey work show feel to it, but also very, very comforting, and at the end of the day, very uplifting. And yeah, Katerina watching out for Arte's well-being at a certain point because she again over-exerted herself is really cute. And yeah, I just liked how they just put these two characters against each other who really struggle with understanding each other in the beginning and what their deal is, and then finding common ground. But also there's some back and forth. Like, Arte says has some problems with Katerina and lets her know about it, and Katerina has some problems with Arte later when she learns some things about it, and says like, no, the person I'm most mad about is you because of this and this and this. And it's really cool. It's really interesting to see these two characters like evolve through each other. And yeah, I liked it. I actually, if they had done most, like, I don't know, 3/4 of the show just with those two characters and how they developed, that would have been great too. But I think they probably chose just the right length to make this work. And like I said, there's a strong emotional payoff for that, which I really liked. And yeah, that's pretty much the rest of the show. I mean, after that, Arte also returns to Florence just for the last episode, kind of, and we get a finish off point with all of that, with her story with Leo and all the others. And again, also very emotional finale and really strong thing, like a really nice exclamation mark on the final thing she does in the show and everything. And yeah, that hit home. That worked really well for me. John, how did the Katerina arc and the finale of the show work for you?
I mean, you basically hit it bang on. It's just like that, it was a lot of between Arte and Katerina just coming to understand each other. And, the friction at first, made a lot of sense because, they didn't know each other's struggles or what, each other had gone through. But, just when Arte discovers, what Katerina's big secret is, and then it's like, and she's like, "You're going to tell my father, aren't you?" She's like, No, I'm going to keep your secret because this is what you're passionate about. And I was like, yeah, okay.
She gets it.
Of course she gets it because, it reflects back on her. Her dad Arte's father was passionate about painting, and that's what she wanted to do. And her mother, didn't want that for her, but she, obviously she wanted to live her own life, and it took her to some weird, crazy places, and it made the story really have some good significance, and it was really strong thematically, the way it came around like that.
And I really like that it wasn't just one-sided. It's not like, hey, Arte already went through this process, so now she teaches Katarina about it. Katarina, at a certain point, once she has kind of come to grips in a way with who she are and what she does, she also is like, hey, no, you are also kind of lying to yourself in a way, or you should accept certain things about yourself instead of being so hung up about trying to change them when you can't. And, you should be proud of certain things that you are and do. And it's really cool. It's like, hey, I didn't expect that. I expect this to be this one-sided thing, but it isn't. And yeah, I really like the way these characters develop and how that was written. So good stuff. Yeah, and like I said, that's pretty much the rest of the show. I think this was really well done. There's this weird thing with one of the side characters that we get introduced to, which is Darsha.
Yeah.
And I was like, did I miss an episode? She just suddenly appears like she has been there the whole time, and we already learned about her in the story. I mean, maybe she's featured more prominently in the manga and got cut for time, but it feels super weird, her popping up out of nowhere, being featured in the OP, and apparently having a good friendship with Arte that she formed at some point in the story, and we never learn anything about her. It's super weird. I was like, was it in episode 0 or what?
Yeah, I didn't even think of that, yeah.
It's super weird. They never really go into her character. And I looked up her character on Wikipedia, and it's like, yeah, there was definitely something. She is a seamstress, and apparently she has a problem with nobles, so that's why she and Arte would probably clash. But then Arte teaches her how to read and write and everything, and that's how they become friends. And I'm like, hey, I would have liked to see that character story, maybe. Why did you cut that?
I feel like there was a little bit of that in there, but it seems like it happened mostly off screen.
Yeah, you see that they suddenly sit together and Arte teaches her to read and write, but you're like, who's that what? I saw her in the OP, but who's that character? What's happening? And she takes on a more prominent role towards the ending, and you're like, oh, hi, character never really got introduced to, but apparently who is Arte's friend. I really feel like that she was a character that was featured much more prominently in the manga and just fucking fell by the wayside for the anime adaptation because they didn't have the space to or the episode count to make it work. So I'm like, okay, maybe you should have done 13 instead of 12 episode and let her feature her in one of those. That's probably possible, but yeah, it was really weird that they never addressed her origin story and everything. So yeah, weird. I doubt we'll ever see more of Arte because it definitely says the end or fine. When the 12th episode wraps. I mean, like I said, the manga is still running, but I don't think there will be a second season to this because that was kind of weird. But yeah, I mean, I would watch more of it.
Yeah, check out another season.
Yeah. See what else Arte is going to do. But yeah, probably not going to happen.
I think it's sort of interesting. I learned this after the fact that, obviously, I guess you could call this historical fiction, kind of, that Arte's character may have been based off of an Italian Baroque painter whose name was Artemisia Gentileschi.
Oh, interesting.
And, I mean, there's a lot of the same parallels, like, Artemisia's father was a painter. She took up an apprenticeship with this guy who actually turned out to be a way bigger of an asshole than Leo.
Okay.
She studied in Florence. At one point, she goes to Venice. And then after that
sounds fucking... those are not coincidences anymore.
Yeah. And then apparently after that, she went to Naples. So, hey, I don't know how the manga continues, but I'd be willing to put money on the fact that the next arc after that takes place in Naples.
Yeah, maybe we're going to get Arte, the Naples chapter, in a couple of seasons. Who knows? I don't know. Yeah. Maybe. They could sell it as a separate arc so that the end makes sense, the end of that specific arc. So yeah, I wouldn't mind it. I really enjoyed that show. If you want to watch this great little series, you can do that on Funimation or Hulu in the US, I believe. Yep. And on Wakanim in Germany, who still don't have the option for English subtitles, which I prefer. Come on, you guys. If Crunchy can do it, so can you.
Yeah, what's up with that?
I don't know. I mean, of course, if it's a German streaming service, so the most important thing is German subtitles, but still, I prefer English subtitles.
Yeah, but even like Crunchyroll has multilingual subtitles.
I think the thing is Crunchyroll just puts their series to a bunch of different English-speaking countries, like streams them there. And I don't know if Wakanim does that. I don't exactly know where they originate from, like in what territories they actually stream. So maybe it makes no sense for them to also provide English subtitles soon. But again, then maybe other languages, and German is the only language they offer. So it's a bit weird. It's a bit weird. I don't know.
Seems strange considering I just looked up that they are based out of France.
Well, there you go. Then it should at least have French subtitles in there somewhere. Well, yeah, I don't know. But I would appreciate if they added English subtitles, because I'm used to watching anime with English subtitles, so watching Arte partially in German was a bit weird. And I was like, wait, okay, what was that called in English again? Because I need to know that for the show notes. But hey, I liked Arte much more than I expected. It's a nice mix of work, show, and coming-of-age story with sympathetic characters and a strong lead. I really dug it. And John, I think you dug it too.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting to get a lot out of this, but it turned out to be really fun, really good watch. So
yeah, and I like what I believe is its intended final message, which is don't let yourself be reduced to who you are and where you came from, but also don't deny those parts of your identity. Be proud of those facets of your character and try to evolve from there to eventually become the person you are content with being. So I think that's pretty strong sentiment that I can wholeheartedly embrace, and I am glad that that is what I got out of this show, which I didn't really expect. So yeah, recommend it. But we're not done yet. Mm-hmm. Even though that was our final review for this season, there's still one thing we have to do. Best of the season. All right, yeah, best of the season time. We don't have that many shows to pick from. 3 each. I mean, yeah. I reviewed a show that John didn't watch, and he reviewed a show that I didn't watch, so each of us has 3 shows to pick from. All right, John, what is your...
Percentage-wise, this season was pretty good.
I guess. Yeah, sure. So what did you end up choosing as your personal favorite, John?
Oh, boy. I should have put more thought into this. God damn it. Every time it's like a surprise for me, too. Mm-hmm. I liked all 3 of the shows that I sat in to review on for different reasons. I feel like, though, Kakushi Goto, there's some weird stuff in its ending that really, I feel like, didn't need to be there. And even though, the whole, at its conclusion, it was fine, that just sort of like, it didn't kill it entirely for me, but it sort of knocked it down, I feel like, a peg or two. Princess Connect was so much fun, and it was so pretty to watch, and goddamn, I feel like, from the Sakuga aspect, that was what I was looking forward to every week. It had all the pretty goyles too.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, yes.
Who's your Princess Connect waifu?
I don't fucking know.
Well, Pecorina's best girl, don't at me. It didn't do much with its plot. It sort of started to get going in the 11th hour, and we sort of get that breadcrumb of where it's going to go, but it's like, hey, I would have liked that maybe 6 episodes ago rather than, in literally the second to last episode. So I really, really liked Princess Connect. I really did. But I feel like as far as the full package goes with storytelling and like characters having complete arcs, I think Arte is probably the choice for me.
Well, there you go. And that, and considering that in the beginning we were like, oh god, are they gonna fucking jam this down my throat with the women in 16th century Florence and everything?
And I mean, that feeling's still there with those first couple episodes, and I get it, and I get that's the theme, and I'm not trying to minimize that or push it out of the way, but it's like, you can do more. And
they did.
They did, and they did do more with that, but it took them 2 or 3 episodes to get there, and then the whole whether or not is she going to have a relationship with this character? No. Is she going to have a relationship with this character? No. Is she going to? No, she's not. You only have to do that once.
Yeah.
You don't have to do it 3 times. At least the 3rd time, it was like, no, okay, you don't have to finish asking the question.
Yeah, and Angelo again also was so incredibly short. That? So, yeah, I mean, that show also isn't perfect, but I guess there was enough.
A lot more going for it.
Okay, so I'm surprised. I expected you to pick Princess Connect Redive.
I thought about it. I thought about it in the past 5 minutes, but I really do honestly feel like even though it is a cute, fluffy, fun, very well produced show, that it just maybe the substance will be there in season 2.
Oh, let's hope so. And then you have a chance to make it best of the season again. So, yeah. I also like Princess Connect Redive. It was colorful, funny, and energetic, but like you said, the story felt too much like a prologue for me as well to completely engage with it. Only got really interesting at the end there with Pecorin's story and everything. And before that, it was mostly hijinks, which is fine, but also not that emotionally fulfilling. B&A was pretty okay, like very strong visuals as expected from Trigger, but again, the story left me a bit disappointed, and I'd rather rewatch Promare than this, because at least there you get even better visuals and everything, even though it's very CG heavy. So me saying that means a lot. But the story of B&A was just like, I see what you're maybe trying to do, but also I don't know if I like it. So, and I don't think you're doing a particularly good job of bringing across whatever you're trying to say, because it all feels super muddled by the end. And it's like, okay. Another Trigger show finishing not super strong. We'll see if that becomes the trend. It was, in my opinion, for Little Witch Academia, and it was for this one. Kill la Kill also, the ending was also not the strongest part of Kill la Kill, but that in general was such a fucking beast, presentation wise, and quirky characters and everything, and high impact stuff, that I could look past that.
Remember when they forgot about one of the plot elements of Kill la Kill? Oops.
I forgot about how they forgot about it, but I'm not surprised.
I think a couple of our mutual friends were up as well with the whole, we created this life fiber bullet, and then it's never mentioned again.
Yeah, that sounds right.
It's like this seems important. Maybe we should use it. Nah.
Yeah, sure. I think the best thing that particular crew has done so far, or most of the particular crew, is still Gurren Lagann. So they never... Kill la Kill was close, but they never reached that high mark again, in my opinion. Respect for Luluka was fun. It's all fine, but I'm still waiting for that thing where it's like, again, it's super fun Trigger show, but give me a bit more. Try to make me feel as much as I felt when watching Gurren Lagann again. So, and I got the people for that, so I don't know what's keeping them. But yeah.
What about the best Trigger show of all time? What about Inferno Cop?
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, I've watched Inferno Cop. I've watched Ninja Slayer, so
That's right. It was the same style. I forgot.
I should maybe get on that. That's the thing that put me off. I didn't know that Imaishi does super, one frame comedy things as well before this. So I was a bit put off. I expected Ninja Slayer to be like this super action fest, but it was a spoof. And had I seen Photocop, I would probably expected that.
What show were you thinking of?
Was it? They were making being cute about it, and we're gonna say Kisniver or something, or fucking calling in the Franks.
No.
But definitely not those. But yeah, Inferno Cup, actually, that probably would be fun to check out. I mean, they're referencing it often enough, and he was in Split Patrol Luko as a side character, so... Yeah. Anyway, that was a huge tangent, but that's why BNA isn't my pick for best of the season. Even though I hoped I would, or I was pretty certain actually I would give it to BNA when I started watching this show. I was like, hey, this is fun, but didn't happen. So I'm also gonna give this award to Arte. This is not a this blew my fucking mind show like some series we gave this award to before. But it's very well done comfort food with an underused setting, well-written characters, nice uplifting message, and a super sympathetic female lead. So, I think out of the 3 shows I watched this season, I came away from this one the most content and feeling the most enriched. Felt like I didn't waste my time watching it the most. I mean, I didn't feel like that watching the other shows as well, but this was like still, there could have been more to that. And a lot of that, or some of that felt like filler. There's a lot of stuff. I got that feeling sometimes from Prince Connect Redev, and I got that feeling sometimes from BNA, especially towards the ending for that show. But I didn't get that feeling when I watched Arte. Like every episode, I was like, this is a new integral chapter in the story of that character. And now she meets another character that teaches her more about life and everything. And now she meets another character that teaches her more about that and a different view and everything. And that helps her to evolve and progress in her profession and her character development. So, that was just well done. A lot of love was put into the details on that show. And I just fucking enjoyed it. I was excited to watch the next episode once I was done with the one before that. So what more can you ask? Even though it isn't a super high profile show or a super, I don't know, twisty and turny story or whatever, or something you have never seen before, but it's all the right parts come together and make a really nice, cute, fun, emotional, entertaining character story. So, my best of the season award shall go to Arte. And with that, we are done with Anime Brain Freeze for the shows of spring 2020. But since we still got a bit of free space in our schedule, and our next episode will be our 100th episode. Can you fucking believe it, people?
We made it. We made it. We made it.
We did it, fam.
We did it, Reddit.
No, keep them out of it. But because of that, we wanted to do something special, which is not that special really, because pretty much every other anime podcast has done it at the end of the last year or the beginning of this one. But what the hell? Who cares? We do what we fucking want here.
To the game.
Yeah,
don't worry about it.
Yeah, exactly. Late. We do what we fucking want on our little show. Don't fucking at us. So what are we talking about? Well, tune in next time to find out. Until then, stay fresh and frosty and wear your goddamn masks. See you soon. Bye-bye.
So long.
And that is a wrap on the 99th episode of Anime Brain Freeze. All the music in our show is from the Double Dragon Neon soundtrack by the amazing Jake Kaufman. Please go to vrt.bandcamp.com and check out his awesome work. Our show is available on most of the popular podcast services, but it's always worth visiting animebrainfreeze.com for our review index and more. Leave us comments and questions on YouTube, follow us on Twitter at AnyBrainFreeze, or send an email to animebrainfreeze@gmail.com. We would love to read your feedback. Thanks for tuning in. We hope you had a good time, and please join us again on our next episode. Macht's gut.
Take care, everybody.
next time on Anime Brain Freeze.